With one big swing of the bat against Zach Wheeler, did Brett Baty save his roster spot with the Mets?
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. If you want to find any of my work, follow me on X at Finkelstein Ryan. You can also find some of my writing at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Now, before the game on Wednesday, the New York Mets announced that Francisco Alvarez and Jeff McNeil would be returning on Friday in D.C., barring any setbacks in their final rehab game on Wednesday. Both those guys came out of the games clean. It was a doubleheader for Syracuse. Alvarez caught a full 7-inning game, went 0 for 4, 3 strikeouts, so he's still not swinging it particularly well, but I don't know if that's going to really sway the Mets from not bringing him back into the fold. I'm sure they're still going to roll with that and allow him to start his timeshare with Luis Torrens. 4-game series against the Nationals. I think they'll probably split those games. So Alvarez will be back. Jeff McNeil played the other game of the doubleheader with Syracuse, went 2 for 4 with a walk while playing the whole game in center field. 3 of his 4 rehab games in the upper levels between AA and AAA, played 2 games at each stop. He had multi-hit games in 3 of them. Overall, across this entire rehab stint, starting in St. Lucie, going all the way through Syracuse, Jeff McNeil hit .393 with a .469 on base and a .643 slug. So he looks ready to go and ready to be an impact player for the Mets. But with that comes a roster decision. The Mets are going to have to make a move on Friday. Who is going to get sent down? Will it be Luisangel Acuna, Brett Baty, or Jose Azocar? And let's just take Acuna out of the running right now. It's going to come down to Baty or Azocar. And with that as the backdrop going into the game on Wednesday, Brett Baty was getting what could have been his final start in the big leagues for some time. And what does he do? Gets a pitch to hit from Zach Wheeler and does not miss it. Crushes his first home run of the season, a 2-run shot that held up all the way until extra innings when the Mets were finally able to beat the Phillies. And for those of you who might have watched this show, because it's the first on your feed on YouTube or the podcast or your podcast feed, and you might have missed my game recap, my series recap of Mets versus Phillies, I did a full breakdown right after the game on YouTube, a live stream, so you can still check that out. But getting back to Baty, that home run was massive. It was massive for the Mets to win that game, and it was massive for his own, standing with the Mets and what they're thinking about moving forward here. He showcased what he can still do. I don't think Jose Azocar is going to hit a home run like that. And you have to think about roster construction and how that's all going to work out. And I will sort of go through all the layers of how I think these pieces can fit together in the next segment. But if you're just telling me point blank, who's the better player right now? Brett Baty, former top 100 prospect, or Jose Azocar? I can't say that Azocar is a better player than Brett Baty, as we'll get into the next segment. Fit-wise, if you want to make an argument there, you can. But if you look at the numbers in AAA, Jose Azocar has been a .286 hitter in 196 career games played at the level. But he's only gotten on base at a .322 clip, and he's only slugged at a .434 clip, so he has a .757 OPS. Brett Baty has played 94 games in AAA. He's hit .273, 382 on base, 507 slug, 899 OPS. He has 26 home runs and 14 doubles in those 94 games played across a couple of years in AAA. Now, AAA does not mean big league success, but if you're just telling me which guy could have a bigger impact if they were starting 2 games a week, it's Brett Baty for me. Yes, Jose Azocar has gone 3 for 7 in his 2 starts, but he's also gotten picked off, and he bunted for the final out of an inning when the Mets had 2 outs and he squares the bunt. I just can't get my head around this idea that Jose Azocar is a player that you need on this roster. But now, if you want to look at Brett Baty's numbers this season, you can say, well, he has earned a demotion. He's hit .204 on the season, .246 on base, .352 slug. That's a .598 OPS. That is not good. But if you've been watching Brett Baty, he has gotten a lot better over the last couple of weeks. He started the season going 1 for 14 on the Mets opening road trip. Then he goes 2 for 13 with 7 strikeouts on the first homestand of the season. And to me, from watching this play out, I think the first road trip, those first, whatever it was, 4 games that he got in there, Brett Baty's at-bats weren't terrible. He wasn't getting results, but he was still a fairly confident hitter, or at least he wasn't beating himself in those first couple series. That first homestand, playing in front of Mets fans, feeling that pressure, yeah, he beat himself and beat himself really, really bad. 7 strikeouts and 13 at-bats is brutal. He looked lost. But now you look at what he has done. He has gone from 3 for 27 with 11 strikeouts and no walks to over the last couple of weeks, he's 8 for 28. He's got a couple doubles, a triple, a home run. He still has 8 strikeouts, which isn't great, but he's finally drawn some walks. And it all started in Sacramento, squaring off against the A's. Baty goes 1 for 4 in the first game played, then 1 for 5. But that one hit in that second game in Sacramento was an RBI triple. And I think that really was the moment that Brett Baty was able to let go of the early season struggles and get back to having at-bats like we know he's capable of when he's right and he's not getting in his own way. Mets go to Minnesota. He gets 1 start in that series, goes 2 for 4, his first multi-hit game of the year. Starts the next day against the Cardinals, goes 2 for 3 with an RBI double. Then he goes 1 for 3 and draws his first walk of the year in his next start against the Cardinals. Comes off the bench for Vientos, goes 0 for 1 with a walk. Now, I took a couple of offers in this last series, but then he hits the big home run to close off the homestand on a positive note. You look at what he's done over these last couple of series, he's getting on base at a 355 clip. He's slugging at a 536 clip. That's an 891 OPS. Super small sample size. But when you're getting something finally out of a guy that was amazing in spring training and has been great throughout his minor league career and has that potential that he just has never been able to tap into at the big league level, I just don't think right now is the time to send him down. And the argument would be, oh, well, you send him down to AAA, you get him everyday reps. If the Mets need a third baseman because Mark Vientos is struggling or gets hurt, Brett Baty is going to be in a better position to be that guy. But I also look at Ronnie Mauricio, who's playing extended spring training games, who should be back in Syracuse maybe by May. That's a guy that could play every single day and get himself in a position where if an opening happens in the infield for the Mets, particularly at third base, maybe Mauricio's the guy. But right now, Brett Baty stands to gain nothing from going to AAA, outside of maybe a little bit of a better rhythm. But even then, I just don't think that it's going to make a drastic difference. If he goes down and he hits 400 in AAA for a month, I don't think he stands to come up and tear the cover off the ball once he gets back because of that minor league stint. I think what's going to get Brett Baty in a good place is staying with this big league team and finding success in a limited role. I think that is where Brett Baty can, for one, help this roster, but two, help himself feel comfortable at the big league level. And I don't think that we should discredit what the Mets can do developing their players at the big league level, because we've seen Acuna and Baty both make great strides over the last couple of weeks in particular. I think that's a credit to the coaching staff at the big league club. It's a credit to Francisco Lindor and his mentorship of Mets infielders. Not only has Brett Baty been swinging a better bat, we have seen that he is a well above average defender at third. Mark Vientos, I think he has made real strides. I think he's a passable defender at third. And I think at times with his arm, he can have a really good game, but he also is prone to have bad games. And he's a guy that's always going to be carried by his bat to position. Now, if he taps into 40 home run power, he's going to be a consistent top 10 third baseman in baseball. That's how good he can be with the bat. And then the glove just has to get by. But Brett Baty can legitimately be an above average defensive third baseman, and he's held his own at second base and been pretty solid there. So I just think right now the Mets are a better team with Brett Baty than Jose Azocar. Now, how do they put the pieces together? That's another question, and one I'll answer in the next segment. First, though, a quick word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Did you know that Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire Stick TV 4K, no console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty, Black Ops 6, and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. I know personally I love playing EA Sports College Football with my friends, and now one of us goes out of town. I've let them know, hey, just bring that Fire TV stick in your controller, and we can keep on playing. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV locked on to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. If you're watching on YouTube today, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Help me get closer to our next goal of 14,000 subscribers. And a big thank you for all of you that helped us get to 13,000 subscribers this week. If the Mets kept Jose Azocar, he's going to play. Like, the idea that the Mets should send down Baty to keep Azocar on the roster because he won't play, and that's more playing time for Jeff McNeil, Tyrone Taylor, and Luisangel Acuna, that's not understanding who their manager is. Because Carlos Mendoza feels that every single player should get in there. And ultimately, it's a good thing because it keeps everybody fresh. It keeps some of your players who aren't quite everyday guys, getting into the best possible matchups for them, which can improve their numbers. A real reason why Jose Iglesias hit 337 last year is because they put him in advantageous matchups. That is a really key thing to this puzzle for the Mets is everybody will play. So you can say, oh, we'll just keep Azocar on the roster as a placeholder, backup center fielder, break glass in case of emergency, but he just spent a week with the big league club and they got him 2 starts. So my case for Baty is give him those 2 starts a week instead. If you look at how this team is constructed, they have 3 guys to me that are everyday players, no doubt about it. It's the first 3 guys in the lineup, Lindor, Soto, and Alonso. Brett Baty and Mark Vientos are near everyday players. And then you have your DH platoon that should be in there most days with Winker and Marte each getting playing time. But if you just look at it from the perspective of Lindor, Alonso, and Soto are going to be in there every single day, and the catcher position we take off the table, between left field, center field, second base, third base, and DH, you have 5 positions. And you have Jesse Winker, Starling Marte, Brandon Nimmo, Tyrone Taylor, Luisangel Acuna, Jeff McNeil, Brett Baty, and Mark Vientos. 8 players for 5 positions. Let's say in a given week, there's one off day, just like this one. So you play 6 games in a week. 6 games, 5 positions. That's 30 starts to split between 8 players. How do you create that split? How much does everybody play? Let's just say that each week, Brandon Nimmo and Mark Vientos get a day. Okay, they're each going to get 1 game off. So they're going to play 5 times each. Well, that takes 10 of the 30 starts away. Let's say you get a lefty in each series. So those are going to be 2 DH days for Starling Marte. And Jesse Winker is going to start 3 of the other 4 games when you have a right-hander on the mound. That's 5 more starts. Now you got 15 starts left to be divided by Luisangel Acuna, Tyrone Taylor, Brett Baty, and Jeff McNeil. Now, we already freed up 1 DH day where Baty can play third and Vientos can DH. Or if you wanted to, Nimmo could DH and McNeil can slide into left, whatever it is. But that's one potential start for Baty. And then Vientos gets a day off. There's your 2 starts for Brett Baty at third base in a given week. Maybe once per series. Now, Tyrone Taylor, let's say he starts twice per series at center field and then comes off the bench in the other game. That's 4 starts. Well, now we're left with 9 starts to be split between Jeff McNeil and Luisangel Acuna. So one of them plays an entire series and 2 games of the other one, and then the other guy plays 2 games per series. And let's just say Brandon Nimmo's playing every single game, or Mark Vientos is playing every single game in a given week. Well, then each of these guys are still going to start twice per series. So there's a way where you get everybody playing time. And you have so much roster flexibility. So let's just say, you have the two lefties on the mound in a given week, one in each series. Well, those are starts where Acuna could be at second base. And then if you wanted to, you can flex him out at center field in his other couple starts. So the 2 games that Tyrone Taylor's not in center field, that can be Acuna, or that could be Jeff McNeil. And Jeff McNeil can maybe start 2 games in center, 1 game in left, and 1 game at second base in a given week. And Acuna might get the other 5 starts at second. The Mets can play the hot hand. They can play matchups. Everybody stays fresh. And you always have good hitters on your bench so that you can take advantage of certain opportunities. You want a big lefty at bat late in the game? Well, if you had started off with Vientos at DH and Baty at third, well, now you have Jesse Winker on the bench. And it might be an opportunity where he can come up for Luisangel Acuna, and then you can slide Jeff McNeil over. And there's a lot of things the Mets can do with this roster. Jose Azocar stays on this team, and the decisions are a lot simpler. Tyrone Taylor is going to have a timeshare with Azocar in center, and Jeff McNeil and Luisangel Acuna are going to have a split at second base. Then maybe McNeil flexes out to the outfield a little bit, or Acuna does. But actually, in a weird way, I feel like the Mets roster is so much more complete with Brett Baty, because you actually have 2 third basemen. If not, who's your backup third baseman? Is it Acuna? Probably. He hasn't played the position much. And it's a lot to ask a rookie to play third base, center field, and second base as a super utility guy. That's why I like Jeff McNeil potentially being in that super utility role. And I think McNeil, even though he hasn't been great at third base, I think if you had to stick him over there, he'd figure it out and be fine. But if you have Brett Baty on the roster, you don't have to worry about that. McNeil can get his playing time in a super utility role in second base, center field, and left. And then you could have Brett Baty back up third base and second in some respects. And Acuna can do what he does best, which is play second base, because this guy has the potential to be a Gold Glove elite defender at that position. And I do really wonder how much of an impact it has on this pitching staff when you can roll out a lineup most days where you have Francisco Lindor at shortstop and Luisangel Acuna at second base. How many extra double plays do you turn with Acuna over at second? He made a great one in this series where he fielded the throw cleanly, was coming across the base, guys sliding into him, makes him have to throw from an awkward angle, and he throws an absolute strike to Pete Alonso. We've seen what Acuna can do going into the hole on the left side, and that also helps Pete Alonso. You could be a little more guarding the line. You could be a little more shifted that way and allow more of a gap to that side, because Acuna can cover that ground. His ability to then go at the back end and go at the middle, it just makes the Mets better in so many ways when they keep Acuna at second base. And that's why I'm really starting to buy into the idea of Jeff McNeil playing center field, because now those Jeff McNeil center field starts, there are 3 at-bats maybe, first 6-7 innings of the game. If you got a lead, Tyrone Taylor comes in. And I really think that the Mets skill sets across the board get complemented better by keeping Baty on the roster instead of Azocar, because again, Azocar will be forced into the lineup in some way, shape, or form. And this allows you to maximize every single player, to maximize Mark Vientos, because, hey, you get the scouting report from the analytics department and you go, oof, this is a guy that Mark Vientos is not going to see well, a guy that he might strike out 3 times in 4 at-bats. So why put Vientos out there in that spot where Brett Baty might be able to handle that matchup better? And you say, well, Mark Vientos should be an everyday guy. But I think if Mark Vientos gets 500 plate appearances against really good matchups for him instead of 600 plate appearances over the full season, his stats are going to be better. And he might be in a better rhythm, not having to go up against that tough matchup where he might strike out 3 times and have his confidence knocked a little bit. I think the Mets are the best version of themselves with this roster we're about to see, assuming Baty stays on it. And even if he doesn't, just getting McNeil and Alvarez back, we're going to see a more fully realized version of what this Mets team can be. But I want to see what this looks like with 13 guys on the roster that I'm excited to watch play. Like, I still enjoy watching Brett Baty trying to figure it out. And Jose Azocar, I'm just not bought into seeing him. If Jose Siri was still available and playing, there'd be no question about this. Brett Baty would go down. But with Siri out, I just don't know how you justify keeping Azocar on this roster. And if you want to say, well, you're going to lose him, the Mets passed him through waivers once. I think they can pass him through waivers again. And if they don't, oh well. You got Gilberto Celestino that can be the same guy for you 2 months from now if that ends up being a move you have to make. So that's my take on Baty. But I want to spend some more time on Acuna. Through 25 games this season, are we looking at the second baseman of the future for the New York Mets and a guy that could potentially contend in the NL Rookie of the Year race? I want to spend a segment on him in just a minute. First, though, another quick word from our sponsors. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing better than catching an MLB game live. Between the crack at the bat, the roar of the crowd, the smell of ballpark food, you want to be in the ballpark. And if you're looking to go last minute, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever with last minute deals, all-in pricing, and the lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, ticket prices drop as game time gets closer, meaning you could score an incredible deal. I don't buy my tickets until I'm walking into the ballpark, basically. I pull open the app, I look at the seat map, I view my seat before I buy so I know exactly what to expect when I arrive, and I can buy my tickets in a matter of seconds, and they're sent right to my phone. It is so easy. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB. That's LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. If you're an everyday listener of the show, make sure to become a Locked On Mets insider. This is our texting service. We get updates from me anytime news breaks in the Mets. You can ask me questions anytime. You can also take part in our Locked On Mets signed photo giveaways. If you want to be a Locked On Mets insider, find a link in the episode description. Go to subtext.com/LockedOnMets. Now, about a month ago, if we were talking about Acuna versus Baty, Acuna was trailing behind. It seemed like had McNeil stayed healthy, Acuna might have started the season in AAA. He did not have a good spring. But now here we are, 25 games into the season, and Luisangel Acuna has made himself indispensable from this roster. He is too important to this team to send him down. He's played in 22 games. He's hitting .283. He's getting on base at a .356 clip. Not a lot of slug. Only 5 doubles, no home runs yet, no triples. So a .377 slugging percentage. But he's got a .733 OPS. That is not bad. And really, he's gotten better and better and better. You look at his start to the season. He was 2 for 17 with 2 walks and 4 strikeouts. He was hitting 118 with a .387 OPS. Over the last 2 weeks, he's gotten 10 starts. He's hitting .353. He's gone 12 for 34. 4 doubles, 4 walks, 7 strikeouts. He scored 9 runs. He's getting on base at a .421 clip. He's slugging at a .471 clip. That is an .892 OPS over a 2-week stretch. It's only 2 weeks, but Acuna is showing you his potential. What's really impressive, going into the game on Wednesday when he came in off the bench, he was carrying a walk rate of 10.5 so far this season. If you look at who he was as a top 100 prospect in the Ranger system, he walked over 10% of the time every level from 2019, 2021 through 2022. It was 2023. It was the first time that his walk rate dipped below 10%. It was 9.2% at the time when he got traded to the Mets. He was getting on base at a .377 clip because he was hitting for a fairly high average. Now he gets traded to the Mets at the deadline for Max Scherzer. He hit 243 down the stretch, and his on-base percentage dropped to .317. But he still was walking 9% of the time. Then you look at what he did last year. The walk rate plummeted to 5.5%. He only hit .258, so he got on base at a .299 clip. That's why he was so bad offensively. Now he's got his walk rate back over 10%. He's hitting .283. The on-base percentage goes up to .356. And as he was a prospect coming through the system, I talked about Acuna and his strengths and what he needed to do to be an above average hitter. And the thing I said at the time, I think this was last year, is he had to take his walks. Because if he takes his walks, it's a completely different hitter. If he takes his walks and he hits 250, he's probably going to get on base at a 320 clip. If he takes his walks and hits 280, he's going to get on base at a 350 clip. And if Acuna is getting on base at a 350 clip, he is a well above average player because he's doing everything well defensively. He's great on the base pass. He's 6 for 6 this year on stolen base attempts because there's going to be all season long an exception I'm going to have to make every single time, an asterisk if you're looking at his stats, because right now it says he's 6 for 7 because when he got caught stealing, where Azocar got picked off and then Acuna got caught in no man's land trying to decide to break for the plate or not, that counted as a caught stealing against him. But when Acuna has tried to steal second base, he's perfect this year. So you bring the base running to the table. You bring the great defense. If he's getting on base at a 350 clip, he is going to be an above average contributor for this offense because of that speed, because of his ability to turn any single or a walk into a double and put himself in scoring position. His ability to score on any double from first base, any ball in the gap, he can score. He can go first to third, even if he gets a bad jump because he makes up so much time with his speed. And then you have the glove defensively and what that brings to the table. I don't think it's crazy to think that Acuna can steal 40 bases this year, be a 280 hitter, play great defense at second base, score a bunch of runs, and by season's end, he could have a 4-win season. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. Right now, Luisangel Acuna is second among NL rookies in WAR. Number 1 is Thomas Segasi of the Cardinals, who was hitting 400 through 12 games. I don't think that's sustainable. Now, you have some really good rookies in the National League. You have Zach Veen, who just came up with the Rockies, Dylan Cruz with the Nationals, Matt Shaw, who is now back in the minor leagues, but broke camp with the Cubs as their third baseman, Drake Baldwin, and a timeshare with Sean Murphy behind the dish with the Braves. And other guys will come up throughout the season. On the pitching front, you have Roki Sasaki and Chase Dollander, who are getting a lot of buzz right now. Top one, well, Sasaki is his own thing, but Dollander, a top 100 prospect. Bubba Chandler, going to come up at some point for the Pirates. Andrew Painter for the Phillies. There's a lot of guys that can absolutely run away with the Rookie of the Year. But if this is a season where no star player is really establishing themselves, similar to what we saw in the American League last year, where Luis Gil won it and Colton Cowser was right there, but no one really did convincingly win the Rookie of the Year the way that Paul Skeens did and Jackson Merrill would have, or even Jackson Churio would have last year. If this is a little bit of a sort of mid Rookie of the Year race, Luisangel Acuna can win this award because he's going to be playing a lot. I really believe that he's going to keep playing himself into the lineup. If he keeps hitting like this, where he is hitting 280 and he's getting on base at a 350 clip, he's going to score a bunch of runs, he's steal a bunch of bases, and he's going to be a little bit of a WAR merchant. He's going to be able to rack up a lot of WAR on a great team. So when voters have to pick at the end of the season, they might be like, man, well, Acuna became the everyday second baseman for the Mets, and he stole 45 bases and he scored 100 runs, and he was a Gold Glove caliber defender at that position. There's a war where Luisangel Acuna can win Rookie of the Year. It's funny because I just placed that bet with my brother-in-law. I hit him up. I said, you want to go in together on Luisangel Acuna Rookie of the Year? And I told him the odds, which are plus 3,000 plus 3,000 right now over at FanDuel. So a $10 bet wins you $300. We're going to throw in $30 on it. Why not? Split that down the middle. We'll see what happens. I'm not saying that you should do that, but hey, if you want to have a little bit of fun and not put a lot down and just take a lottery ticket on Acuna, I don't think it's a bad bet whatsoever, just because I think he's going to have the one key ingredient for anybody that is chasing a Rookie of the Year award. That's opportunity. I think he's going to have that opportunity to keep playing. Now, things can go the other direction, and Jeff McNeil can outplay him, and Jose Azocar can come back, and the Mets might decide, you know what, we're going to roll with McNeil every day at second and keep our center field rotation with Siri and Taylor, and maybe Acuna ends up in AAA at some point this season. That's not outside the realm of possibilities. Maybe Ryan Mauricio comes up, and he's a guy for the Mets, and he supplants Acuna on the roster. A lot can still happen, But I am viewing Acuna in a different light because he has all of a sudden turned into a much more patient hitter. And it's not like this is outside the realm of who he has been, because if you told me that his walk rate for his career in the minor leagues was 5%, I'd say, okay, well, this isn't sustainable. But his walk rate in the minor leagues has been at 10% a lot. And that just changes everything for this guy, because all of a sudden you're getting out on base so much more frequently by just taking those walks. You're putting yourself in better hitter counts. And we're seeing Acuna have the ability to find the holes in the infield and utilize his speed and get himself on base. So I'm really excited about the future of Acuna. And when you think about what he can do defensively up the middle with Lindor, this very well could be the second baseman of the future for the New York Mets. A guy that holds down that spot for the next 5 years during this real contention window with Lindor in his prime and Juan Soto, and we'll see what happens with Pete Alonso. But Acuna is really starting to establish himself, and I don't think that Jeff McNeil coming up should eat into that too much. Obviously, McNeil's going to play, but if you're not dead set on Tyrone Taylor starting every day, which I don't think the Mets are, and you can find a couple starts a week for McNeil in center, maybe a start a week in left because Nimmo's either DHing or getting a day off, you can keep Acuna playing at least twice per series at second base with McNeil getting the other starts. And that is all you have to do to keep Acuna fresh, to keep Acuna in a rhythm, and to keep Acuna very productive for this Mets team. We'll see how this continues to progress, but 25 games into the season, I think the Mets might be looking at their second baseman of the future. As always, thank you for listening. That's going to be all for the show today. On tomorrow's show, I'm going to dive deep into the Mets farm system. I'll give you updates on a lot of their top prospects, and I will preview the upcoming series against the Washington Nationals. If you don't want to miss it, make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you want to be a Locked On Mets insider, find the link in the episode description. Go to subtext.com/LockedOnMets. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen or your first watch every day. Now, for your second watch, head over to YouTube and check out the first ever 24/7 streaming channel that covers everything in the world of sports. We're talking about Locked On Sports Today, the local hosts from each team, league-wide hosts from each league. Find Locked On Sports Today streaming 24/7 on YouTube.